forget, you can hear the full-length, longer version wherever you get your podcasts. You're a big man, Tom, never more so than when sitting close to me, which is only enhancing your stature. There's loads I want to talk to you about, and sometimes when I say we'll do it in no particular order, I get a bit jumbled. But let me first of all talk to you about this. You wouldn't class this as one of your things. This is a thing that you're in, but it's a thing that gives me great pleasure. Paddington 2.
Yes, yeah.
Possibly a perfect film.
Wonderful bit of work. It's incredible.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it was an amazing thing to have been a part. It was a really strange thing because originally when Paul first got in contact about doing it, I think I was called Tattoo Prisoner. I was essentially almost an essay, and I had like one line.
Yes.
And then we had this amazing week and a half of sort of rehearsals and as the prisoners all together, and slowly that grew into something else, which was an amazing, and Paul showed a lot of trust in giving me a few more lines here and there, and it was an amazing thing to be a part of. It was insane on the basis that you sort of, the first film had done so well, and then you're like, this is the sequel. You're always conscious of, is it going to hit as hard? And
the sequel is better than the first film. Somebody made the observation that in the first film, the whole idea is that Nicole Kidman wants to skin Paddington, which I think tonally is maybe not.
For children. Yeah.
It's just like, whereas the second one, it's perfection.
Well, Hugh's just amazing. Like, we did the dance number at the end with Hugh, and but there was like this kind of the prison was all the stuff we shot right at the top, and that was all shot I think in the first almost month and a half. And obviously when we came back for pickups, there was a buzz about what Hugh had done. And when you saw it for the first time, it was like, as a comedy actor, and I'd say a comedy nerd.
Exactly.
I watched Hugh.
I thought it was like a Peter Sellers-like performance.
Yes. And weirdly, this sort of like, growing up, and there's so much of Hugh's work that I love from before, like, Batter Boy, I think, is a really incredible bit of film about mental health. And I think Hugh's actually, when you go back and watch it, it's, brilliant. And not, but then also this sort of the rebirth of Hugh, like The Gentleman film and, Notes on Scandal, he's sort of phenomenal.
I'm a huge fan of Hugh Grant. I always have been. And so when there was this almost shock, he's really good. I go, well, yeah. Could you not see that previously?
Probably one of the biggest moments of my life, like pat on the backs I've ever had. When Wonka came out, I was like, I didn't watch the Wonka until the premiere. I didn't realise that wasn't the thing to do. I had no idea that everyone else had watched it. We did a whole day of press that day, or 2 days of press, and then everyone was like, I can't believe you've not watched it. And I was like, well, I thought everyone came to the premiere. I was a point of the premiere. So I went in there not really knowing what they'd use, whether like sort of they cut around me and used all the stuff for Olivia and Timothy, and and a lot stayed in. But Hugh was sitting across the sort of aisle from me, and as the film finished, I sort of stood up, and I've been quite nervous around Hugh. I was quite starstruck, and he sort of looked at me and went, fucking good job, and then shook my hand, little pat on the back, and I was like, well, that'll like that, and I'd laugh later. He's a nice guy, but there's something I'm a geek, a fan of yours. I think like Marion and Jeff is one of the best. When I was starting out in this industry, like if you'd asked me what I'd want to make most, Marion and Jeff I think was a genuine piece of comedy genius. I think it's just, I think when you go back and watch it actually, and you look where we are with men's mental health and stuff now, you think, fucking hell, this show is so, it's just brilliant. It's an incredible bit of work.
Thank you.
And I love comedy. That's this thing I adore the most. But when I see someone like Hugh, who's I'd always looked at as a drama guy, and a sort of coming and putting a hand to it. Sometimes I think people can almost think, this is going to be easy, and I think Hugh just takes it, and he's phenomenal, man. So that film, I think Paddington 2 is perfect, man. It's and led to so many other
because
things.
That started your relationship with Paul King. And then Wonka happens, and then you're working with Timothée Chalamet, who's possibly the most kind of zeitgeisty, hip, credible person on the planet. Would you say possibly?
I had no idea of the size of his style. Like
You don't, but as you get older,
Yeah.
you don't realise who these younger,
Yeah.
like Timothée Chalamet, Austin Butler,
Yeah.
and all sorts of other names.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I've heard of this new. No, they're huge.
Yeah, and I had no idea. I had no idea. When we did research, who's Mrs. What, or any of that. So that when it was a weird thing because I think me and him were almost two of the first people cast in the movie. So then we ended up doing quite a few. I think a week or so, just us doing rehearsals and me, him, and Paul just throwing it about in the room. And I'd sort of take as you find whoever you meet. I've come into this industry quite late. I think just try and have a laugh and get on with people best you can. And I found him to be a lovely young man. We did a lot of nerdy chatting about football, but he loves the French league. We chatted about football a lot, and our relationship, we got on very, very well. I found him just a nice kid to be around.
Yeah.
He's very, and I think that, you know better, but I think the more sometimes that someone is at that level, the more they're almost more grounded and they just want an ordinary conversation. And I found that to be quite we had quite a laugh. We spent most of the time doing the voice of the dog was the dog in all my scenes, who was just the worst. I mean, that's saying don't work with kids and dogs.
Oh yeah, no, dogs are the end result can be lovely, but you've done a great take and you can't
and the dog
use
shits.
it. Yeah.
Or he just walks off. That's the worst. There was moments when I was doing a scene with Timothy, the opening of the movie, and the dog would just like look at me and just go, fucking hell, this guy, and just walk off.
What was the dog handler like?
The dog handler did that many days. She started wearing Puma trainers and by the end was wearing Prada. The dog got that much overtime.
They're an interesting breed.
They are, aren't
the
they?
dog handlers.
That's a good
interesting
comedy. Yeah.
people.
Yes, because it's like the way she talked about him was like sort of that he was this misunderstood star, and it was sort of like insane that she sort of like. Yeah, like there was days where me and Timothy were just doing that. I don't know if you've seen the film where we're walking across the bridge and the dog's just sort of in front of us. We spent days doing this on a blue screen, and the dog. Me and Timothy were getting it right, but they wanted the dog with us, and she was just like, he's just not up to it today. And then she was like,
he's just not up to it today.
Can you put some sausages in your pocket?
Yeah.
And then I had these sausages that I'm trying to give him. Yeah. And I've all got lines to remember. I'm thinking, now I'm feeding this. And he's just, once he knows you got sausages, he's licking up you the whole time, isn't he?
Yeah.
You're like a crack dealer. You're just handing out sausages the whole time. And every time I saw him, he saw me as a massive sausage. Also, I would say this, his trailer was nicer than mine.
You said you came into the business late, and that's why you are... you sometimes have imposter syndrome or you just really enjoy it. Talk me through some of the things that you did before.
Well, the longest thing I was misquoted saying I was a scaffolder. I was a labourer. I was a labourer that I could turn my hand to most sort of picking up and carrying of things. I was pretty good, pretty good at that. I'd done that since leaving school. I sort of was asked not to do my GCSEs because they sort of, one of the teachers was like, you being there will be such so detrimental for the rest of the kids in the class. I was very loud. I had still have ADHD. Like most
How
people,
did your ADHD manifest itself?
A lot of anxiety, and then sort of overly compensating with being quite.
Do you medicate for the anxiety?
No. I work out, I cold plunge, I meditate a lot. Medication was a route I tried, didn't do me any favours. So I sort of. It was really going into COVID. I've been diagnosed not long before COVID, right. Along with a few other things that happened in my life that were sort of meaning that ADHD is sort of then leading into a bit of depression and sort of I was getting quite down about things. So medication just wasn't a route I really wanted to get down. And then I sort of did just a lot of reading about it. I spoke to a lot of people and that thing of meditation, learning how to deal with yourself. And also so going into COVID, I was over 23 stone. And I was like a big guy, like massive, drinking a lot, eating all the wrong foods. And that COVID really gave me this thing of I'm going to just start slowly working out to now where I'm 18, sort of just top end of 18 stone. Wow. And, that meditation gave up drinking for the most part. I still have a drink now and again, but it was the alcohol is just not my friend at the moment. It doesn't feel like it's been there through most of the low points of my life. Yeah. And I've tried to really, over the last few years, really sort of, with the ADHD, with depression, with mental health issues. And when me and Ramesh started a podcast, it came from a place of let's just chat about life and it was always comedy, but then we started opening up a lot about how we felt. And I think actually I'm very blessed to have Rom in my life as a best mate that you chat to. But what you sort of then find is it's really easy for us all to go, naturally we do this, right? You're a stand-up, you're a comedian. We open up anyway.
Yeah.
But when you speak to a lot of people and you're like, we all sit here and go, we open up, tell people your problems. Yeah. It's very hard to do that if you haven't got anyone in your life that you can actually open up to. It's really hard if you're nervous about letting that out. And I think that alcohol, I can see why it's detrimental. And so when it came to sort of things like, for me, looking at ways of coping, it's like, let's try and take the things out of my life that seem to make my life worse and my mindset worse, and let's try and install things that are better. So whatever happens every day, I'll walk as much as I can. I'll try and, that 10,000 steps, 15,000, whatever you're trying to do, I'll try and do that.
And where will you do it? Because I asked because we got a dog not that long ago, and one of the great benefits, and it struck me, is obviously I'm walking more, but I'm going to, say, Bushy Park or Richmond Park, so I'm in nature. Yeah. And that is, without any doubt, beneficial for mental health. I mean, it's been proven, right? But it just occurred to me the other day as I was walking there, and she makes me smile so much. I'm just smiling because you look at a golden retriever's face, you have to smile.
Yeah. Dogs are. I mean, we have one. And
what have you got?
We had a pointer, but sadly passed away. But which I wasn't ready for that kind of fame. But but that was again a really big thing during COVID. Of that, you're allowed to be out, you can go for a walk. So I'd take him out, and I'd moved just before COVID to an area that I didn't really know anyone. So he became like my sort of. It was a bit like, have you ever seen that Jimmy Stewart clip when he's talking about his dog? And he reads a poem. Oh, it'll break your heart. But can't remember the name of the dog. It's incredible. Old school, he's on a chat show and he reads this poem out about his dog, and it's like, wow. And I never really knew what it meant until we had Landis, who's named after John Landis. But so that's, I think it's a really big part of me, sort of. And you're right. We moved to an area then since where we're out. It's in nature. I'm just out of London. Enough out of London that I've got parks, I've got the Chilterns, I've got Marlow.
The Chilterns, gorgeous.
Beautiful, yeah.
Carefully don't get swept away by a red kite.
Yeah.
We were camping in the Chilterns once, and I was sat there with just me and my son, and he would have been about, I don't know, 10 maybe, and these red kites are hovering, and you go, they're fantastic, they're big, aren't they? Yeah, wow. And that goes from, they're big, aren't they, to, they're big, aren't they? Because they look as though they could just come down and take you away.
I mean, for me, I wouldn't be too worried about 6 foot.
No.
But my daughter now, that fills me full of dread.
Yeah. I think out of the two of us, you would have chosen my son. Yeah. I wasn't worried about myself.
I love the idea of the red kite just turning around going, I want to go for the dad. What? I want to go for the dad. Go for the son. It's an easy pick. Now, fuck it. You've been mugging me off, saying all this stuff. I'm going for the fucking dad. Red kite. And then we're in the pub later just going, you should have seen Bruno earlier. No, he's only picked up Rob Brydon. He could have had the boys, picked up the dad. Love it. It's sort of just...
Picked up that twat from Gavin Stacey. That programme does my head in. I can't stand that.
What do you reckon the secret was?
I'm glad I hope he dropped him from a big height.
One of my first routines, it's weird to talk about that, but one of the first things I was obsessed with was, remember when Attenborough, they did the documentary, which was incredible, and there was a part of it where they had the seagulls and they put cameras on them. I built up this thing, this is going back to a routine I haven't done for ages, but I always liked the idea that I made it into The Sopranos. This one seagull that had come in was a rat. And the rest was like, how the fuck is this guy getting all this information? Who the fuck? Someone's opened up. And there's one seagull sitting there with a camera on his back going, oh my God, like big pussy.
That's a great idea.
It was one of my first routines way back.
Right. The tour.
Yeah.
Touring life.
Yes.
How do you find the touring life?
I've loved the tour. I think it's been a real, it's been incredible. For the most part, I'll always try to get home. I think that's a really, if I'm in, I think anywhere from Manchester up, I'll stay the night. I've literally just done Wales. Wales was incredible. Wales was really...
Where did you play in Wales?
So first leg of the tour, I'd done Cardiff, a couple of nights in Cardiff, which I will say was incredible. It was banging.
Yeah.
That crowd was incredible. Anyway, and then we put in some more dates. So we went and did Port Talbot.
The Princess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we did Aberystwyth. I can never pronounce it.
Sorry?
Aberystwyth.
Where?
How do you pronounce it?
What? No, carry on.
Aberystwyth.
What?
Oh, man.
Just have another go. Be confident. Take your time.
Aberystwyth.
All right, try again.
You're going to have to give me an indication of how
I will, but in my own time.
Oh, God, Rob. Look, I felt this is awful trying to say this back. This is why the gig didn't go well. ABBA.
You're good with ABBA, but then we've had a long time, haven't we, to get used to ABBA?
Yeah, ABBA was... ABBA Wasted? No. No, I've got this.
Are you ready?
Go on.
Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth. Aberystwyth. It's a really tough...
Try again. It's not that hard. Aberystwyth.
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 That was good.
Aberystwyth.
No, that was bad.
Jesus.
Aberystwyth. Think of ABBA, right? Dancing Queen. Think of wrist. Think of with, but with a th sound.
Okay.
Go.
Aberystwyth.
That's it.
All right. I wish someone had just said that before.
Yeah.
Aberystwyth.
Why? What happened when you were there?
Well, I introduced myself. I do my backstage intro, and everyone, so the first 5-10 minutes. What happened there was we turned up. We stayed at a B&B where
on the seafront.
Yeah, the guy clearly. When we got there, I said, "Oh, is there a gym here?" And he said, "Yeah." And he showed me.
Oh, there was one. Sorry, I thought you were going to say he's going
no,
gym. What are you talking about?
Let me. So he takes me under the stairs. There's another set of stairs that lead down to a cellar, and in the cellar is a wooden rowing machine, not like a new And I said, "Have you got any free weights?" He said, "Well, there's some stuff in the corner you can pick up." And it was just loads of like essentially old bits. It's like you've been and it was just like little bits of like things that are like this, that are like brackets that are there to put on walls. There was no free
stuff
weights.
In the corner you can pick
and
up.
I just and he said, I said, and then he had like 4 of these like treadmills, and which varied from sort of things that were probably made in the 60s to the 90s. And he said, only one of those works. I don't know which one it is. And I was like, all right, okay, this is. And he went, is this all right for you? And I said, yeah. I said, and then I sort of went back upstairs and was like, what time's the restaurant open? And he sighed. I said, are you okay? He said, I just can't stand people. And I was like, but you're in a customer-facing job. And he went, worst fucking thing. And he started then telling me about he brought this place with his ex-wife. His wife had left him. He then was running a B&B, but his wife was a people person. She didn't want anything to do with it. It was the destruction of his marriage. Couldn't sell the place. So it was just, I ended up thinking, oh, this is quite a, sad story. Actually, someone that Rob Brydon could play and make quite amazing, actually, because it was quite tragic. But yeah, he had a very funny turn of phrase. And then
where was this again?
It was in Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth. Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth. Wrist. Think of a wrist.
I know, Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth.
Oh, my God. And anyhow, my room was on a slope. So I sometimes try and putt. I take my putter and the balls are just rolling. I was like, this is bleak. Anyway, the gig itself was at the university there.
Yeah, I've played there.
Yeah, God. So we went through 4 microphones, because the mic started.
Okay.
And then a young student there sort of was trying to fix the problem by walking around on stage as I was performing.
You are kidding.
It was hilarious. And then I sort of, halfway through the second half, someone just switched on all of the lights. And I mean, it was literally everything. I think I probably did 20% of my material. The rest was just, this is insane. What's going on? And it was a great fun. It was a really nice
You're getting
crowd.
laughs.
Yeah, getting laughs. At that gig, it was just everything. And then afterwards, the guy there was so genuinely mortified about everything. And I have a laugh about it. I'm like, look, it makes for a different show. And I'd performed the show 80 times already, so it made for it. Yeah. And then we went there. We did Bangor. Bangor was the last one, and which was again a lot of fun. Yeah. But it was interesting.
But what was the one before Bangor? Where was that?
Aberystwyth.
That's right.
Aberystwyth.
That's it.
Yeah. You know what? I can say that now with pride.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to, because I want to go back there. I'm going to just have it tattooed there on my wrist.
So the tour, you're still touring?
Yeah, I'm still touring.
I'm
on the road till June 11th.
And is there some sort of website where people? It's always funny nowadays when people go. So that would be at Tom Davis. So just Google it.
Yeah,
you'll find it.
It's on my Instagram. It's bigtomdavis.com. I think it's there. Tickets still available for some.
For some venues.
Yeah.
But be fast, be quick.
Yeah. I mean, Scotland, Dundee could do a little shot on the arm.
Who has informed? Because if I'm on the stage, I can go, oh, that's a bit like that. That's a bit like that.
Yeah.
Who has informed and made up who you are on stage?
I think, for me, one of the biggest ones were, Flanagan Mickey was like, I remember seeing Mickey was the reason I got into it. I'd seen Mickey Flanagan like on a work night out, like when I was scaffolding, he was at the Backyard Club, and I just thought there was just something really.
You were a general labourer, not a scaffolder.
Yeah.
You made that distinction earlier.
Yes, I was.
Are you going back on that now?
No. But I was allowed out with the main scaffolders. They let me have a drink.
But you
with
never
them.
were a scaffolder.
I never passed a ticket. I worked with scaffolders as a labourer.
But you weren't up on the scaffold doing it.
I'd take stuff up there sometimes, like lunches.
Because I have a theory that scaffolders are the happiest people in the world.
I don't know about that. They're the craziest, but yeah.
But they're always talking to each other, always laughing.
Oh yeah. Oh mate, but I think that's after sort of where I learnt that sort of happy going, the sort of lucky nature of sort of having a laugh, and as tough as life could be. It's one of the things when you watch some. These dramas, working class dramas, and they make them very grey and sort of, and for the most part, it's quite a fun life. It was, a lot of ribbing and whatever.
So you're watching Mickey Flanagan was a scaffolder, and you were watching him. He was up on the scaffold, and he was putting it together. Mickey.
No, Mickey was on stage.
Mickey was on stage.
Yeah,
right.
And it was, but I found there's something there where you're like, wow, that felt like someone who was like you could identify with, and you go, right, I feel that. But but then I was obsessed with just watching and like things like Bob Newhart as a storyteller.
Glorious, still alive.
Yeah, and then sort of obviously Billy Connolly was a big one, just in the sort of nature of that, again, working class, but sort of coming from that sort of background and sort of there's the storytelling. Mike Reid, there's bits with Mike where I was like, and sometimes when you're telling a joke, the reinforcement of pushing a joke, and actually how he, like, when you got to know him as obviously Frank Butcher and people, but as a stand-up, I always found him, those old school joke smiths and sort of like, there was about 100 jokes and they'd all sort of chip and change and swap. But I always found, I loved him as an actor, Mike Reid, but as a stand-up, I'd sort of loved how worked up he'd get about when he really lived those jokes. So there's always those people that you sort of
and
take
have they
a little
influenced
from.
you?
Yeah, I think we're all influenced, but then you have to find your own way of doing those stories and doing those things.
But it comes from all these others that go in and then...
Yeah, Eddie Murphy, I think, like my generation would have been, Raw and Delirious, you sort of knew it all off by heart, and you could... And the difference... And like yourself, then, when me and you spoke, as a character actor, I was like, how do I bring a character into this to make the piece come alive a little bit more? How do I do a different voice or sort of... And then, I guess, trying to make things a little bit more surreal in places that isn't, but... Similar, I suppose, when you've done things like Murder and Successful, it's a bit different, and then you've done something as mainstream as King Gary, your audience is going to be very different. At times you're going to get people who want this thing, and so you've got to try and go, right, well, in the best I can, let me try and give different ways so everyone here is going to enjoy it. And I think also then hopefully that will push you as a comedian and push the material in which you're doing. And I think hopefully, and this is the first time I've done a tour. This is my first time. I had 6 years out, man. I was like, I put a lot of anxiety and a lot of stigma, and when we talk about mental health, I put a lot of that on stand-up. I put a lot of that on, never, the imposter syndrome, and sort of, I found that thing of never really thinking I was very good at it, and thinking like I couldn't do it, and I put a lot of that pressure, and that's why it was easy to go, right, well, I can become a character and saying, I find that really quite easy. I find it easy to sort of pull away from, because I didn't think, without getting too deep, I was ever quite worthy of that. So once I actually sort of like, and where we're talking about, that's why I was quite interested about you as sort of the Rob, but then, having seen shows that you do and the singing and you're a gagsmith, you can do impressions, you're like this multifaceted. But for me, it was a really interesting thing of like, I used to try so many different things. And actually, when I first signed with Off the Curb and with Flo, it was like, you need to just go back to being the guy that people are in a pub with, and you're telling a story to your mates in a pub, and make it simple, make it just you, rather than trying to do this or that or this. And since that, I've found myself going, actually, this is kind of...
So you had somebody who could guide you, offer you advice and step back from it.
Because the other one was Lee, like when I watched Lee Evans, I think. Lee was just a master. He was. It's insane when you talk to people about within the industry about your favourite comedians, and people don't always say Lee, and I just think, who's a guy who broke into those arenas, but also there's just such a...
Yeah, but it's funny who gets held up and who doesn't. Yeah. That's a good example, because Lee Evans is like,
Yeah. Yeah,
and when you watch those recordings of Lee on stage, right, he would be doing that every night.
Yes. And never missing a gig.
Yeah.
But weirdly, what you're talking about, I mean, I was really lucky. I worked with Lee Mack early on in my career, and we did...
sorry.
We did.
You seem all right now.
Yeah, no. I've gone through a lot of therapy. And Lee's one of the loveliest guys. But he's so when they did a remake of Everyone Loves Raymond.
Yes, I know about this. Yes,
and me and Lee, I was the brother, and Lee was the.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see you in that role. Yes.
And we were doing that, and Catherine was the wife, and
yes,
it was great. It was like And
you had Phil Rosenthal over there, didn't you? What an experience to meet him.
I hung out with him. Yeah, he was a really. I remember one of the first days he was on. That we were on set together, and not on set. We were in this rehearsal room, and they came in and they were like, "Oh, it's going to be lunch soon." Obviously, Phil's a big foodie.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What are we doing for lunch?" And someone went, "Oh, we're just run down to the Tesco Metro and grab a sandwich." He was like, "The Tesco Metro for a sandwich?" So he walks down his Tesco Metro with us, and we all sort of like stroll down, and you're chatting to him. And he just sighed and he went, "When we were doing the last series of Everyone Loves Raymond in the States, we flew in lobsters from Maine." I was like, "Oh, you can get a prawn sandwich here for £4. Salt, vinegar, crisps, and a fizzy drink of choice." But there was a moment there, and when you talk about your education, so I think Lee Mack's one of the best joke tellers we've ever produced. I think he's phenomenal. And as a guy, I love him. But there was I was really struggling with this joke about a cheese sandwich, and I was really critical of the joke. And Lee was like, it's not the joke issue. You have to own these moments. You have to own this joke. You know, if the joke falls flat, that's just on you. The joke's not going to change, but you can change around it. And the education of working with someone like Lee, who is just, I think, there's one thing to tell a good joke and smash it, but Lee, I just watch him and he's just so fucking clever. And the way he can to mix up language and mix up performance and looks.
It's his speed. I would say the primary thing. The speed is
in which he thinks.
Oh yeah, I mean it's astonishing.
Yeah,
it's astonishing.
And one of those people that we played in Soccer together, and
I know he keeps on doing that.
Yeah,
I mean he's gonna keel over.
He has some run-ins with a football manager. I won't say his name.
Oh, he's told me these stories.
Yeah, but being there with I enjoyed Soccer. I'm an awful footballer. I'm not, but I actually look forward. I look forward to the evening dinner because I'd sit with Lee a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and I was a big fan of Lee. Yeah. But I'd look forward just I'd watch Lee and go. I could see him getting annoyed. And I'd just think. As a comedian, I go, I can't wait for dinner tonight because Lee Mack will just make me laugh for an hour and a half. And he never disappointed. Was always hilarious.
No, he's always funny. We've been on holiday. They live near us, and we've been on holidays, know them really well. And I could almost say nobody makes me laugh as much as him. In my private life.
Yeah.
Because he takes the piss out of me, and it's hilarious. And he makes connections.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about him. So you're struggling to sell tickets in Dundee. It's a beautiful part of the world with wonderful people.
And the home of Desperate Dan, which would be if there's any character that I could bring
Thompson,
to life.
The publishers. Yes, that's right. Okay.
And it feels like if they were going to make a film of that, I could throw my hat in the ring to that part.
All the more reason to go and see you in Dundee.
Yes.
If you want to know about Tom's dates, you just put Big Tom Davis in Google. You go to the website. Or just ask a neighbour. I mean, just find out. And go and see him. This has been very enjoyable.
I've loved it, Rob.
Very enjoyable.
So every day you can sort of break bread with a guy like you, Rob Brydon. So thank you for having me, sir.
I like Tom. I just think there's a degree of respect that I don't get from a lot of the guests, and I think I hope this heralds a new dawn.
Yes,
and a new way of doing things here.
Yeah.
Let's shake hands.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. And maybe we can break bread another time in Aberystwyth.
Oh!